Good afternoon, mayors, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 15th Livable Cities Lab brought to you in partnership with League of Cities and Globe Telecom. I welcome you this afternoon and let's all prepare to be inspired. Inspired by technology. Technology can spur development in many sectors, in communities across the country. It can be used in such diverse sectors as agriculture, as you've seen, education, health, environment, tourism, and commerce. Technology enables cities, businesses, and organizations to develop better businesses, improve city services, advocate for causes, and improve the lives of people. The intervention of the COVID 19 pandemic has deeply affected society and the economy. It has strained all our sectors, from education, agriculture, travel and tourism, and emergency response. This will likely be the case into the near future. During these trying times, digital technology has become a lifeline for keeping our society functional in a time of lockdown and quarantine. The pandemic has accelerated digital adoption among Filipinos. Out of necessity, more people and organizations have shifted to digital transactions, telehealth, e-payments, e-commerce, and other digital enabled activities. As we move towards recovery, this digital transition is expected to continue and become a permanent fixture in our daily lives. During this Livable City Lab, we will share developments on digital technology in light of the pandemic and listen to how communities are using technology to work, learn, and play in the new normal. We are pleased to announce our lab will be joined by distinguished speakers and experts. Mayor Antonio Joseph Jopet Inton of the municipality of Hermosa, Bataan, who incidentally celebrated his birthday last Saturday. So happy birthday, Mayor. You have Victor Andres Dindo Manhit, a good friend, founder and managing director of Stratbase Group. Eloisa Romaraog Diga, CEO and founder of Session Groceries. Dr. Georgine Primavera, chief scientific advisor for the Zoological Society of London. And Vince Tempunko, vice president for site acquisition and management of Globe Telecom. So thank you, and we look forward to your participation in today's event. And we hope you are inspired by all the stories that our speakers bring to us today. Let me now turn you over to Sui Suarez, our moderator for this afternoon's lab. Sui is one of the co-founders and core team members of Livable Cities Challenge Philippines. He is an energy industry professional with 25 years of experience in communications, corporate social responsibility, commercial oil products businesses, and project management at Shell. His most recent roles were in corporate external relations for Shell International, where he led the global communications campaign on the future of energy, and in the Shell scenario team, where he managed external facing activities and channels. Ladies and gentlemen, let us please welcome Sui Suarez.
Thank you, Bill, for the kind introductions and magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Welcome everyone to the Livable Cities webinar on empowering communities through technology. So at this point, we'd like to acknowledge a few mayors that are present today. Mayor Nicolas Yulo of Baguio City, Mayor Bernard D. from Kawayan City, Mayor Noel Rosal from Legazpi City, Mayor Manuel Saladaga from the municipality of Mahayag, and Mayor Richard Gomez from Ormoc City. Magandang hapon po mga mayor. We'd like to kick our webinar off this afternoon. Let's take a look at how Filipinos are coping and adopting digital solutions in these trying times. So let's watch this short video first.
Napaka-importante kasi ng communication sa atin, sa amin, lalo na sa pagdi-disseminate ng mga information, unang-una, situation, sitrep ng aming bayan, pag-update kung anong status nila, kung kailangan nilang mag-evacuate, kung ano ang kailangan nilang suporta mula sa munisipyo po natin.
Dati po, hahanap ka pa ng spot para lang makakakonect ka. Ngayon po, kahit nasa loob ka ng bahay, nasa loob ka ng kwarto mo, napakalakas na po ng signal. Napakaganda po ng mga tower na dumating na ito. Ang bilis pong makapag-communicate. Ang bilis po natin maiparating sa ating mga kabarangay kung ano po ang mga pagawain natin sa ngayon.
Hindi pa nagpa-pandemic, okay na okay ang aming paghanap buhay. Wala talagang problema kami, nung nasa effect kami. Yung tinda mo ng umaga, 60 kilaw, tubos yun. Initong magka-problema kami, magka-pandemic. Dito na napuro yung aming paghihirap lalo.
Nang dumating yung disruption na yan, talaga naman paparating na yung digital transformation. Pero yung COVID talagang nilagay tayo sa mga bahay natin. Ginawa tayong dependent sa digital space. Ang rule sa negosyo is be where the market is. Nasaan ba ang merkado ngayon? Nasa digital space. Kaya kailangan pangatawanan na natin to. Kaya itong new normal sa pagninegosyo, mas papakinabangan nito ng maliliit. Kayang-kaya nilang sumabay. At kailangan nilang matutunan kung paano i-capture yung market na pare-parehong nai-enjoy ng lahat ngayon.
Napakahalaga po sa ating panahon ngayon ng pandemya na mayroon tayong internet connection, lalo na po sa simbahan. Alam natin na maraming hindi nakapunta ngayon sa simbahan dahil sa restriction ng mga ng IATF. Napakahalaga po na ma-reassure natin ang mga mamayan na nandiriyan lagi talang pastol na meron silang malalapitan. Napakahalaga na patuloy tayong makapagbigay ng inspirasyon. So napakahalaga sa ating panahon na talaga dapat ay malakas yung ating connection. Nakakatuwa sapagkat patuloy nag-i-improve ang ating means of communication, ating teknolohiya, lalong mas lumilinaw ang pamamaraan ng ating komunikasyon sa isa't isa. Naipapabatid namin yung values o mission ng simbahan, although virtual, yung ugnayan natin sa Panginoong Diyos ay mapalalim, no? Sa pamagitan ng bagong pamamaraan ng komunikasyon.
Thank you for that. So let's begin by introducing our first speaker, Professor Victor Andres C. Manhit. Professor Dindo Manhit is the founder and managing director of Stratbase Group, a research and strategic advisory consultancy firm, and president of its policy think tank, Stratbase Albert de Rosario Institute for Strategic and International Studies. Since 2004, Professor Dindo has identified investment and business opportunities, gathered critical intelligence to overcome regulatory challenges, and develop deep relationships in key departments and agencies. With his extensive experience, he helps Stratbase clients understand the interplay between business and government and the impact of legislative, regulatory, and electoral outcomes in their business strategies. He also provides top-level strategic analysis and thought leadership on global issues in the Philippines. To help us explore possible answers to the question, are cities ready for the changes needed to maximize the benefits of digital solutions? Let us please welcome to the Livable Cities Lab our first speaker, Professor Dindo Manhit. Magandang hapon, Prof. Dindo. How are you?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Sui, for that introduction. Good afternoon to the local chief executives present and all the participants of this webinar. Allow me to share my thoughts about digital readiness in the Philippines. You know, this pandemic made us in Stratbase assess the challenges confronting us, and we identified 8 pandemic challenges. Of course, we continue to be in a continuing health crisis. But we've noticed as we deal with this health crisis, we need to deal with the realities that we need to recover economically, deal with the realities also of the environment, deal with the realities of governance. But at the core of all this is where is technology. We have seen how we have adapted to this reality, and this type of webinar that we are in this afternoon is an example. Imagine different individuals in different places participating and discussing under this Livable Cities program. But where are we in terms of using the internet? Globally, we have seen the internet used for various reasons by a core member of population. In the study that was provided to us early part of this year, and when we look at this more specifically to the Philippines, we noticed the active mobile connections, the active media users, the internet users is reflective of a big percentage of our population. It even goes beyond 100% when we have this habit of having two mobile devices. But it also reflects that these are the people that continues to be the productive members of Philippine society. And as we deal with that reality, we see also the increase of the use of social media, the use of the internet for various reasons. What we saw last year, as we all got locked down in different places in the country, as we had to deal with the realities that even our own small, medium-scale enterprises need to reinvent themselves, we saw the growth of e-commerce. And this is expected to grow. Just a few months back, part of my consulting is I do a lot with foreign companies, and a lot of interest coming from a company called Ant Financial, the owner of Alibaba, saying that there is an opportunity in the Philippines when they asked me to brief them on the regulatory landscape in this country. Along the way, we have seen also the private sector, in the telecom sector, doing their part. I remember exactly a year ago when they were questioned, or their capacity to invest in tower was questioned by the leadership of the government. But they said, sir, we are ready to improve on the speed, build those towers. And we have seen that, if only the bureaucratic challenges will be overcome. And we see the importance of the private sector, especially in the Philippines, in the digital space, because they're the key drivers of investment. Question is, are we ready? How can we be ready even? So allow me to lay out, where are we? We've seen data from last year whereby we saw e-commerce driving a significant growth in the Philippine digital economy. We have seen how the Philippines in the Southeast Asian region registered the highest spike during the lockdown in average hours spent online per day. And there is this view that Southeast Asia will have sustained and long-term adoption of e-commerce in the region. And the Philippines is one of those that is driving it. That is a big opportunity for a post-COVID recovery, that the service sector that drove growth in the Philippines can be part of the big comeback if they can only embrace digital technology. And even leading financial institutions have enhanced their apps and have seen engagement increase. Mobile banking apps, 53% increase in the Philippines. Second only to Vietnam, who registered 70%, but at least Southeast Asia, when people always say that it's the Asia-Pacific region that will drive the economy, and of course you'll always hear China will drive it, or the global economy, I always tell people, but collectively, Southeast Asia can match China in its growth. Imagine if we are driving this increase in engagement with regards to mobile banking. And we've seen some reports of mobile banking licenses being issued by our own central bank, seeing that our own government is opening to this reality that there is need for a shift. Of course, this pandemic opened our eyes also for the need of shifting to e-health. How many of us have done teleconsultations? I've done that myself. My family has done that in different forms. And we've seen that uptick. And this is, again, a reflection of how things would be. And at the core of this is the use of digital technology. And when you look at the digital competitiveness like ranking that we are, much can still be improved. We have seen the demand from the public. We've seen the desire to shift given the lifestyle, the choices made by the general public. But we need to still be more competitive. We even drop in our digital competitiveness. And key to that is that we saw one of the strengths is actually the private sector. We could have dropped more in terms of competitiveness if the private sector did not invest. I've been an advocate of a strong private investment, but also at the core of it is a strong investment from the public sector that we have not really seen. But we have seen it being debated in the halls of Congress for possible appropriation. Provisions of one national broadband, the idea of free Wi-Fi, the idea of investing more to link areas in this country. Imagine if both sector moves forward, we can truly see an improvement in internet speed. But now, as we see its improvement, we know it's driven by investment coming from the private sector. Just this June, that means a month ago, a report by the Philippines that that says that we continue to improve. Of course, much can still be desired. I always tell people it's hard to compare us with other countries that have less population, that does not even use, in the Philippines, latest studies in social media, users of Facebook and YouTube reaches 89 million in our country. You can imagine how it really affects the speed, but still, we have from calls to text to even downloading, and now even to conducting webinars. But we see this improvement. Imagine if we build on this improvement and invest even on education. That means building on the skills of our people, making us move from maybe, as some would say, leapfrogging the traditional growth sectors of like manufacturing or even agriculture, and really focusing on building the capacity on the use of digital technology. So we need to invest in that. We need to build what I've always argued when I used to be an advisor and chief of staff of a former Senate President, Edgardo Angara. I introduced to his office in the 90s and early 2000 the idea of a knowledge-based worker. That you invest, and me as a former Undersecretary of Education, I felt that imagine the skills that you build. And these are the first people that will become digital workers. It was during my time in the public sector when computer laboratories was introduced in the public schools, one of my projects in the period of 1998 to 2001. But I felt bad because as I saw it being introduced at the high school level, I know it was being introduced to my nieces, nephews in the private schools. Imagine the digital divide that we see. But we need to invest more. We need the private schools to generate enough students. We need the public schools to keep up, and the K-12 program, that 2 extra years, that specialization on STEM, science, technology, and mathematics, can create that strong knowledge-based workers in our country. And with that, we will see that we can rise more in this capacity to go into frontier technology. The idea of artificial intelligence, robotics, and biotechnology, that we have that capacity. The United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. Of course, we would like to be at the higher level, but imagine this opportunity. They see it. They see it in us. But our challenge is that big population that we have. How can we turn our population into skilled individuals ready for digital, the shift to a digital lifestyle. But even though we see all these opportunities, there's always been these threats. One of them is the threat of cybersecurity. We need to be conscious. Especially in the Philippines, we continue to be in the top 10 among less secured in terms of cyber threats. Maybe we have improved, but still we are in the top 10. And aside from that, also the idea of rising piracy in our country. Every time I see reports by AVIA or the Asia Video Industry Association Coalition Against Piracy, when you see that 66% of online Filipino consumers admit they access piracy, streaming sites and torrent sites. You say, oh, we got it. It's a self-interest of that individual without realizing you're actually affecting the ecosystem of knowledge workers. How it can affect the growth of knowledge workers, knowledge-driven jobs in our country. We are seen as sites, as a country that is high in piracy. And of course, it has relation to cyber security. That's why in StratBase, we are a research institute. We have our own policy experts. We came up with this advocacy as we enter the second half of 2021. Even in the area of vaccine rollout, imagine if we will roll out this key component of COVID recovery using technology. Here I argue that given the lack of digital infrastructure and tools to support effective implementation of the country's pandemic response, we encourage our leaders at the national and even local level to strengthen collaboration with the private sector and ensure that more Filipinos coming from vulnerable communities will have access to vaccines and other public services. We need to live with this virus, but living with this virus means also, or dealing with the challenges of this virus also means adapting to it and using the tools, the knowledge, the opportunities that is provided to us. And digital is the way. It has made us realize, as we have said, that imagine if we can harness digital technologies. We adapt to this so-called new normal. And if you've noticed, I keep on saying a strong partnership. I'm a believer not of whole of government or whole of nation, because that simply means it's the state. But in the Philippines, I believe what is needed is a whole of society, whereby the government at both the national and local level works with the private sector. We need to work to identify, analyze, and find the best strategies for the digital transformation of all sectors that can drive sustained growth post-pandemic in our own policy environment. One that we can build and foster on a digital economy with thriving industries that are globally competitive and sustainable. We all are familiar with the term business process outsourcing. But today we should be calling it knowledge process outsourcing. It's not about call centers. It's about the skills of the young people that we can develop and should continue to develop. So we need to keep in mind the importance of quality education. As I've said, there's much to be desired. Upskilling is key for a digital economy. And centered to this digital transformation is developing the knowledge and skills of the Philippine workforce to adapt to digital transformation. As I've said earlier, I remember my time as an Undersecretary of Education trying to introduce computer literacy. You can only do so much. So I even introduced, and it's now a law called the Adapt a School Law, whereby I got the private sector and I got even the telcos then, the private sector to build computer labs. Some contributed classrooms itself, some contributed connectivity. But a lot of people didn't realize that even Microsoft, a very popular, a very rich, top corporate, multinational corporation, even had a special price for their software for the Philippine public education system. Because we negotiated, we put value on that. I gave importance to that, and I even came up with even training for teachers. This was early 2000, right before I left government and went into the private sector. But imagine if we can build on our educational system now. And I'm confident, especially with the introduction of K to 12 a few years back. Because as we develop and even purchase technology, invest on infrastructure and tools, imagine the next generation of skills that we can develop for our country and what jobs it can create. Jobs create livelihood, opportunities, livelihood opportunities create a better life for the Filipino people. Not only limited to those with good schools, but to the general public per se. And key to that is actually local government units. How do we even use or redirect our efforts into building the skills through our local school boards? Because you are key to shaping the direction of the country. And what about digital readiness? It's about empowering our people, adopting a developmental governance mindset. I spent 26 years in a university, professor at the De La Salle University. I taught a course that started popularly known as public administration, evolved into some courses as development management, and then in this century, it's called the governance. But people mistake governance as simply how government functions. I said, no, that's not governance. That's governing. Governance is about looking at the key sectors of society, building on those key sectors of society. Maybe it's a public sector driving it, but important also is the private sector. Important also is the civil society sector. So here, I bring that thinking with my digital readiness argument. The digital readiness is about our people's readiness. We have seen in my previous first few slides, I focused on how we have adapted to digital technology in the span of 1 year. So imagine a people-centric approach that focuses on the public, on our people. How can we use this digital technology as power tools in the so-called digital revolution, where we leverage the opportunities of digital technologies for public health to deal with the realities of pandemics or threats to public health, or to how do we recover from this pandemic and build on digital technology, overcoming digital divide, building up and recovering in our manufacturing sector, agricultural sector, through the use of technology, improving processes and policies that create a more responsive, more accountable, and more transparent local government units. But it takes a new culture of leadership, one that is strategic. I always tell people, when I established my advisory firm in 2004, I called it strat-based. The core word is strategic. And key to being strategic is looking at what's happening around you. Looking at not only the political, economic trends, but also technological and social trends. And what digital readiness is telling us is that we are seeing this trend. It's being used by our people. The time they spent on the internet, the time they spent on social media. Can we turn it into a more productive use of these technologies? And maybe we can make things more inclusive, making more our prosperity post-pandemics more sustainable. Last week, just thinking of this presentation, I decided to write about it in my regular commentary in the business world. I call it Getting Digitally Ready for Economic Sustainability and Competitiveness. And one of my key takeaways is that while private telecommunication firms continue with their efforts in developing telecommunication networks, the government, as I've said, not only at the national level, but even at the local level, must likewise do its part, investing in digital infrastructure that would connect underserved and unserved areas. Amidst the mounting challenges faced by the government, we need to develop our ecosystem to become economic engines that would transform the Philippines into a competitive player. We're not there yet in terms of being a competitive player in a traditional economy. But we can be there, maybe by leapfrogging it, and be a competitive player in a globally digital economy that might even hasten economic recovery and sustainability. But we need that partnership. And I wouldn't mind saying it in every opportunity or fora or webinars I get invited. Government needs to harness the expertise, the experience of the private sector to build the country's digital readiness and compete in a digital global economic environment. Imagine me, a professor of public management, advocating private sector, because I'm a great believer of whole of society working together and transforming Philippine society into a competitive, digitally driven society that will recover, sustained recovery post-pandemic. Thank you and good afternoon, and for the opportunity to speak in this webinar.
Thank you, Professor Dindo, for that very, very informative presentation. I really do love looking at the pieces of data that you put together. No? Tama, maganda yung sinabi mo na that the Philippines is actually already there. We can see the signs and signals and signposts that on digital adoption.
Yes.
2 out of 3 Filipinos are internet users. 80% are social media users. 70% of Filipinos have purchased something online. So
yes,
it's really there. But of course, very strong there. However, very glaring, binanggit mo na we are number 57 out of 64 sa digital competitiveness. Really a long way to go. And I looked at the table there. Nasa lower quartile tayo kadalasan dun sa mga sa mga aspeto ng regulatory, capital, technical framework. But you did point out that the private sector is really trying to move the needle there. So finally to your point, and to your July 21 article, there really needs to be that collaboration. I said not just the government doing something, but it's the whole society method of collaborating, the people-centric approach to get things forward, to get the country ready. So very well said. Very, very interesting presentation. I'd like to get the webinar going. So we'd like to show you another video on how digital connectivity is integral to online learning. Now, this is one of the things that Professor Dino mentioned, the importance of learning. So let's see how digital connectivity is integral to learning and is helping pave the way for inclusivity and education for all. So let's look at this video.
Bilang katutubong ay pangarap ko po na makapagtapos ng pag-aaral. Magpapakabuti po ako kung sakaling maturuan po ako ng online para sa susunod na henerasyon, yung mga susunod pa sa akin, matuturuan ko.
Before pandemic, pinupurso ko na yung online learning, lalo na sa mga malalayong lugar. With online learning, pareho ang matututunan ng bata sa sentro, kapareho rin ang matututunan sa upland. Magiging standard.
Mahalaga po ang pagkakaroon ng connectivity dahil ito yung magbibigay ng malaking push o kaya malaking leap para sa ating mga mag-aaral at sa mga teacher para mag-explore pa ng mas malawak na knowledge base na makikita lamang sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo. No?
Actually, kahit modular distance learning, yung system of education na ginagawa po namin, mas preferred po nilang yun online. Kaya lang, due to unavailability of access ng internet, imposible po para sa kanila. Kaya nahihirapan po yung mga magulang para i-assist yung kanilang mga anak. At syempre, ganun din ang mga teachers. Kaya sana kung mayroong possibility na may upgrade pa yung mga internet connection, magiging beneficial po yun sa mga bata namin.
Ngayong meron na akong gadget at malakas ang internet, nakakapagtapos na rin ako sa aking pag-aaral.
Para sa amin dito sa bayan ng Hermosa, dapat lahat pantay-pantay, pare-parehong oportunidad. Pag tayo sama-sama at walang naiiwan, kayang-kaya nating lampasan ang pandemyang to.
For our next speaker, we have invited the Mayor of the Municipality of Hermosa, Bataan, Mayor Antonio Joseph R. Inton. Mayor Jopet Inton is in his second term as Mayor of Hermosa, Bataan. He originally a businessman, a political consultant, and an active helicopter pilot. He decided to run for Mayor of Hermosa since he has been serving long-term as political and project coordinator under the office of the provincial governor. In his first year in office, Mayor Jopet gained record accomplishments never before achieved by previous administrations in terms of infrastructure, education, health, peace and order, and good governance. It is Mayor Inton's vision for Hermosa to be a truly progressive first-class municipality with self-sustaining industries and healthy educated constituents. To speak about how he advocates for the right to digital learning and how he has utilized technology to make online learning accessible for all, especially in the far-flung areas that have slow connectivity and limited access to virtual learning tools and platforms. Let us welcome Mayor Jopet Inton. Mayor Jopet, magandang hapon po sa inyo.
Magandang hapon. Thank you very much, Suwi,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Guillermo Luz. Thank you for greeting me. Mr. Dido Manhit, thank you for that information that you shared your expertise with us. My fellow mayors, fellow public servants, other resource speakers, honored guests, and participants. It is with great honor and pride to be a part of this webinar as we share our thoughts and experiences in these challenging times. Prior to COVID-19, we have been battling many challenges: depletion of our natural resources, poverty and unemployment, access to better healthcare, access to quality education, especially to the economically challenged sectors of our communities. This pandemic made these challenges even more glaring and evident. For developing countries like the Philippines, the first few months of the pandemic and even up to today, we are still in the cusp of recovery. Combined with global challenges like the world's population exceeding 8.5 billion by 2030, growing demands on resources will in turn heighten risk of insecurity and poverty. In addition to this are the rapid advances in digital technology, artificial intelligence, and algorithm, combined with the uncensored and irresponsible social media, make our jobs even more difficult as leaders. For now, let me zoom in on education in our country before pandemic. Even before pandemic, there were worrying signs of an education crisis in the Philippines. The most widely disseminated news about crisis came from a report of the Program for International Student Assessment of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, o OECD, in 2018, which showed Filipino students ranking the lowest among 7 countries in mathematics, science, and reading. In math and science, Filipino 15-year-old students obtained 353 points and 357 points respectively against the 489 OECD average for both categories. The OECD 2018 PISA country note for the Philippines stated 15-year-old students in the Philippines scored lower in reading, mathematics, and science than those in most of the countries and economies that participated in PISA 2018. No country scored lower than the Philippines and the Dominican Republic. Over 80% of students in the Philippines did not reach a minimum level of proficiency in reading, which is one of the largest shares of low performers among all PISA participating countries and economies. These tests started to be administered in 2000 and are repeated every 3 years. In the 2018 test, the Philippines ranked second to the last. The last is Dominican Republic, and the Philippines is second to the last in math and science. And in reading, it's so sad that we rank last. With fast advancement in information and in communication technology, our children need to catch up with science and technology, engineering, and mathematics, or STEM, as like Mr. Manhit Dindo told us. And we as leaders need to formulate concrete steps to translate policies into workable solutions. As for now, this is our data. Out of 26.77 million students in basic education, only 3.63 million reach to higher education, and only 753,000 have access to technical education. Our classroom learner ratio is 1:29. For elementary, 1:39. For junior high school, and 1:31 for senior high school. And this classroom learner ratio can be solved by e-learning. That was my suggestion before the pandemic. And junior high school students move up despite having low proficiency. 1% proficiency in math, 3% proficiency in English, and 1% proficiency in science. 1.1 million did not go to school in 2020. 3 out of 4 public schools do not have internet access. Imagine, 3 out of 4 public schools do not have internet access. 1,179 private schools closed in 2020 when the pandemic struck. Grade 5 students didn't meet proficiency of their level. Reading, 10/100. Writing, 2/100. Math, 17/100. Kung hahayaan lang natin ganito at magpapasawalang bahala tayo, ano sa tingin nyo ang future ng ating bansa at ng susunod na henerasyon? In the municipality of Hermosa, we are doing our small steps in order to fill the big gap in our education system. But of course, we recognize that we cannot do it alone in the local government unit. We need the support of our policymakers in the Department of Education. And as what Mr. Manhit told us, we also need the support of the private sectors. To give you a background, my original plan before the pandemic during my first term in office was to modernize the educational system and augment the technological tools for students in the municipality. How? Before, I planned to purchase computers, tablets for students in grade 5 and grade 6 as a pilot project because at that time, we have the National Achievement Test, NAT. After grade 6, we have the National Achievement Test after grade 6. And I thought that it was the best way to measure the effect of gadget intervention with digital academic content. Unfortunately, there was no digital academic content or digital lesson available here in our country to support the modernization project. Another challenge is that the availability of a reliable and fast internet connection that is seamless and accessible. Unfortunately, these two major ingredients to make this project feasible were lacking. Hindi naman namin kayang, as an LGU, hindi naman namin kayang gumawa ng digitized lessons alone. Notwithstanding, I started to distribute LED TV to daycare classroom with the hope that I will find a good content for the program and distribute the digitalized lessons via flash drive. Unfortunately, even for the early education, there is no standard academic content available. Because if we want to improve education, it should be standard. And then we were hit by the pandemic in early 2020. Our educational system was not prepared for the shutdown on traditional classroom experience. We had no academic digital content, no reliable, accessible, free internet access and gadgets for teachers and students, no funding from the national governments either to initiate the DepEd's plan for a combined learning program through modules, online learning, and offline learning through flash drive to support DepEd's learning program. Unfortunately, binigay lang sa amin ng DepEd at sa mga maskwelahan na ito ang gawin nyo, pero wala namang funding. But we had to be resourceful and resilient. We cannot hold our learning system hostage because the pandemic cut us out. Amidst the difficult challenge, the municipality of Hermosa has begun distributing 517 laptops to all teachers and 24 photocopiers machines for the modules and 21,000 reams of bond paper per quarter to all 24 schools under our jurisdiction. Please take note that the bond paper, which we just throw in the trash afterwards, costs 4 billion per quarter. Imagine we invest on trash 4 million per quarter in our education system. These tools our teachers need the most if we have to push forward with the education. That's why we provided them with the laptops, with the photocopiers, and with the bond papers. But ang nakakahinayang dito, yung bond papers per quarter, which is 4 million pesos per quarter na tinatapon lang natin sa basurahan. We also have some education support programs such as iHub or computer labs, scholarship programs, and tablets for qualified indigenous people families. Sound system in every school, sports equipment, books, and sewing machines, and the robotics club. But these are not all enough. And to further augment our educational tools in times of this pandemic, we also distributed radio equipment and radio-based instructional materials to our secondary schools in the municipality. We varied our systems and mixed old and new ones in order to be responsive to the needs of the school. However, we acknowledge that what we did is just a band-aid solution, and we cannot afford any better. We should all work hand in hand, the educators, the national, local government, and the private sectors to cope up sustainably with the big loophole in our education system. A solution that is adaptive to the ever-changing technology, pandemic, and other global challenges. It should be inclusive, standard, equal, accessible, and affordable to all. Dapat po ay maging pantay-pantay ang edukasyon at accessible para sa lahat. Ang edukasyon para sa mga estudyante sa upland at geographically isolated at disadvantaged areas ay maging pareho sa mga estudyante sa kabayanan at syudad. Kasi po nangyayari, mas expert ang mga teacher sa city o sa kabayanan dahil yung mga baguhang teacher pinapadala sa mga malalayong lugar. Meron namang ibang teacher, syempre pagka matagal na silang nagtuturo, hindi na rin ganon ka-aggressive. Kinakailangan maging pareho din ang natututunan ng estudyante sa ibang bansa, gaya ng Amerika, Europa at China, at iba bang mga estudyante sa ating bansa. Even if teachers have different experience and proficiency levels in different countries, it can be equalized by the following. So I think that this is the equitable solution. Number one, we should have a standard digitalized lessons or content. That's very important because that is the foundation. Because even if we have reliable and fast, efficient internet, if we do not have the digitized lesson or we do not have the content, how can we standardize education? Number two, a fast, reliable, efficient, accessible, and affordable internet connection. That is also very important. Like now, I have given laptops to the teachers, but there's no free, they pay for their own internet. And it's not efficient, quite accessible, and not so reliable. Number three, gadgets to teachers and students. If the government can invest 4 million pesos or even more per quarter, why can we invest in gadgets instead of investing in the trash can? These three, I believe, are the best solutions to address the gap in our education system that should be inclusive and sustainable. Eventually, even after the pandemic, education should be a combination of classroom and online learning para makamit natin ang tunay na pagbabago sa ating educational system. Ako ay naniniwala na tanging ang e-learning o digital learning lang ang susi upang ang ating mga kabataan ay makalaban sa global competition. Maraming salamat po at sana malampasan natin ang lahat ng challenges na ating kinakaharap. Mabuhay and God bless us all.
Thank you, Mayor Jopet. Thank you for filling us in on the situation sa Hermosa and yung mga ginagawa niyo mabuting bagay to help, bridge that digital and educational divide. Maganda yung binanggit nyo how you're trying to make, di ba, yung education equal and accessible for both the people in the syudad, sa syudad at saka sa uplands through yung digital standard lessons, syempre connectivity, no? Tsaka yung having gadgets and investing in the right tools rather than investing in trash, as you said. So well said on that, Mayor. And thank you for joining us today. Our next speaker will be Miss Eloisa Romara Diga. So Eloisa saw that helping the agriculture industry can help reboot the Philippine economy, sustain millions of livelihoods, and provide food security and reduce global warming. More importantly, she believed in uplifting the morale and giving back dignity to the Filipino farmer. She is always looking towards sustainability and maximizing the power of available technology. Eloisa envisioned a community that had access to free produce at the press of a button. To speak about how technology and digitalization is used to help farmers benefit more from their harvest, let us welcome the CEO of Session Groceries, Ms. Eloisa Romara Diga.
Talaga napakalungkot naman talaga noon. Pag iniisip ko noon, mag-harvest ako, bagsak na naman ang presyo. Wala kang magawa. Kung bibilhin na ng piso, yung 1 kilo, bigay mo lang. Ano naman ang kakainan naman ng pamilya pag ganito?
Ang farming ay sugal. Normal yan. Kadalasan kasi mga tanim is 45 days to 60 days. So dadalhin yan sa trading post. Pagdating no, umaasa kami na mataas yung demand at mababa yung supply.
Kung talagang oversupply na, talagang bumabagsak na.
Ayaw mo nang i-harvest kasi pag magkukwenta ka na, wala na. Bahala na.
Wala akong mapapala sa farming. Kinamuhian ko yung pagpa-farm.
Napaka-heartbreaking kasi nung part na yon na in-effortan ni farmer yan. Lahat ng pawis, pagod, pera, panahon, iiwan pa niya ang family niya para lang mag-harvest. Na-realize ko na gusto ko nang tulungan yung mga farmers nung nagiging part na ako ng buhay nila.
Gamit ang kanyang 2-in-1 na galing at talino, napabuti niya ang buhay ng iba. Narito ang kanyang kwento.
So dati kasi ang ginagawa naman namin is purely business. Tapos nag-evolve siya dahil dun sa mga farmers na kailangan talaga ng tulong. Pagka-part siya ng Session Groceries, i-insure lang niya na nakakapagtanim siya. So ibibigay niya sa amin kung ilan ang available na products, naka-display yan sa mobile app. Si farmer naman, iha-harvest niya yan, i-repack naman ng fulfillment center namin. So ma-check na kung kompleto yung vegetables niya, dalhin sa Manila, sa house to house, yun na.
Parang too good to be true na kami na yung mag-pricing.
Bigyan natin ng motivation yung mga farmers. I-motivate natin sila, uy sige, magtanim kayo kasi meron tayong market. Poprotektahan nyo kami pero ipoprotect namin kayo.
Meron kasi yung time na pag sasabihin ng anak ko na hindi ko ma-provide dati, nabibigay ko na.
Ganito pala ang farming dapat.
So yun yung vision ko. Magkaroon ng true dignity yung farmers natin na pagkatapos nilang magtanim at mabenta yung tanim nila, deserve nilang matulog sa maayos, deserve nilang kumain, deserve nila na pumunta sa lugar na gusto nilang puntahan at makapagpahinga.
Kay Ma'am Eloisa, maraming salamat.
Kay ate, salamat.
Alam ko marami pa siyang matutulungan.
Napakalaki ng puso mo para sa mahihirap na farmers na tulad namin.
Aasahan nyo rin ang mga farmer ay laging nakasuporta kay Ma'am Eloisa and sa Session Groceries.
Na baka this time, maibigay namin yung deserve ninyo.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Sui, for the introduction, and to our 200 plus audience in Zoom and in FB. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share the vision and the vision of Session Groceries. And to my co-speakers, good afternoon. So Session Groceries is all about helping local farmers. But before we help the local farmers, we saw that there's an issue with the farmers. So historically, as countries have industrialized, the number of small farmers has dwindled, with workers opting for city life. A fear of food insecurity in an import-dependent country like Philippines, already struggling to meet the current food demand. That's why we have imports. And issues that we can see and summarize, with my 2 years experience working with farmers, we have a very limited education that make them, the farmer, less receptive to new farming technologies, and at least boost the yields in the face of growing losses from the volatile weather like we are experiencing today. Also, we have legacy farmers, where the average age of Filipino farmers, specifically the rice farmers, is at 57 to 60 years old. So with this, we might reach a critical shortage in the next decade. Lastly, this is a very risky business. Our archipelago ranked as one of the most disaster-prone countries in the world, with 20 typhoons annually. So being a farmer is like being a priest. You need to take a vow of poverty and make a pact with the Lord that no typhoon will come and destroy your crops, but that's impossible. I know that you will all agree that we cannot meet the local demands. When I say this, the 2% population growth year on year at 100 million population, everyone will needs to eat. And agriculture land has been converted to subdivision. Also, youth don't see farming as their career because it's less appealing, because young people would like to live in rural areas. So this has been the experience of our partner farmers in Benguet. As much as they want to expand their farms, they cannot, because they cannot see any workers anymore. While we may have the money to import our food, or the exporting countries may not be willing to sell to us like what we are experiencing in COVID vaccine, where we need to wait for our turn. Maybe you are wondering, what did we do to help the local farmers? But before we do that, let's discuss first the existing process that we got. So, for example, after 3 months, for example, we have the carrots. After 3 months, finally, the farmer can now harvest the carrots. But the selling price of carrots in trading posts is only at 5 pesos. This is based on the supply and demand. So he will just leave his truck to trader 1. The trader 1 will sell it for 10 pesos per kilo. And then the trader 2, they call it Viajero, will sell it for 15 pesos. And then we have the trader 3. The trader 3 is the trader in Metro Manila. And then we have different traders in between before we can sell it to stores at 70 pesos per kilo before we can deliver it to customers. So At Session Groceries, upon seeing the plight of the farmers, there's a big gap between the take-home pay of the farmers and the traders. So we know that it should be the farmers who should have a big take-home pay. And yes, this is the existing process that we got. And what if the buying price is high? Then we as a consumer cannot do anything about it. We need to buy at a high price. Remember when we have a cabbage, there we are selling it at 400 pesos per kilo. That's because we don't have any supply anymore. So we really have an issue with the supply and demand. So Session Groceries, upon observing the gap, decided to help local farmers by one, process simplification through technology, and we started in 2019. So the partner farmers and Session Groceries are ready before the pandemic, where the farmers can sell using our mobile app. They will have their own store in our mobile app. It's just like a Lazada and Shopee. And then the customer can order using our mobile app going to farmers. So the farmers can also check their orders using our mobile app. So that's the simplification that we did for the farmers. But this is not just all about selling. We also need to check that we need to convert a farmer to entrepreneur by what? A farmer, before they can become a member of Session Groceries, they need to learn how to do a farm plan, farm map. They should know their harvest per week, their production costing. They should have their own branding and logo before they can display the products in mobile app, and before they can check their order, before they can deliver to Session Groceries and to customers of Session Groceries. With this, inside the mobile app, the farmers can take orders. They know when to deliver. They know the requirement of the packaging. They also need to have their delivery receipt, their business permit, the official receipt that they need to provide to Session Groceries. At the end of every month, they need to send the sales and expense report, and we will pay them after 7 days. Now, if we got some concerns with our customers, we also have the after sales service where the farmer need to answer the complaint of the customer if it's related to harvest. We have the target areas. We have the people. We're in the farmer, and we also educate the consumer. Why is it important to support the farmers? And we also have the process, the order, the delivery, and we also need to align the farmers on the technology. So we focus more on Farmers Academy. We set up a Farmers Academy in 2019 because we saw that there's a limited education for the farmers. So we need to upgrade by teaching them face-to-face. When we don't have the capability to have that face-to-face, we set up a Zoom. So can just imagine a farmer can now access a training using a Zoom. And just this year, we set up a Farmers Academy with One Concord Academy, where they teach our partner farmers how to convert their goods into value-added products, which is a processed food. So again, we align on the process, and we align also on the technology. In 2019, we require our partner farmers to open an account in BDO and BPI, but we also converted this year to have their account in Union Bank using their business, so we can have that separation of accounting. So they have their personal, they have their business. We also have an inventory system inside the mobile app that a partner farmer can use, and a farmer can now use their email to approve any payments. They can also see our PO, and they can also use our Google Drive for our trainings. This is very important for our partner farmers, innovation, where farmers need to upgrade. They need to explore, they need to embrace any changes that we need to require them. So, for example, for this is an initiative of partner farmers where they have the nitrate tester. Nitrate tester is a chemical test used to determine the presence of nitrate ion in a solution. So, if the process is correct, we will know because of this nitrate tester. So, if it will turn red, it means that they input a lot of pesticide on their crops. So that's not allowed. Next is the branding. It's high time that we need to introduce the farmers as the owner of their crops. So we also, when you buy at Session Groceries, we ensure that we have a correct branding. And also for the QR codes, where you should know where your food comes from. So we have every crops that you buy at Session Groceries, we ensure that they have a farmer's DNA on every packaging. And lastly, I think this is the one that will complete the loop of partner farmers, where we teach them how to process the food, because because 40% of their crops has been put to scrap because of the physical features. And now we teach them how to process it, and we can sell it to different grocery stores. And we are also planning to export it. So what's the impact of all of these activities since 2019? Because of this, our partner farmers able to pay their debts. They were able to buy their second-hand delivery car. You can just imagine, this is Brina. This is Brina, member of 4Ps. In just 9 months, she was able to buy a second-hand delivery car. That's very important for her because they need to walk 8 kilometers away from her house to her farm, going to highway. So a lot of partner farmers, that's their priority when they have the capacity to buy. Now they also have a lot of partner farmers, 50% out of that 32 don't have their own farm. So they need to rent, and now they were able to, it's not yet fully paid, but at least they have that plan to have their own farm. And also for the farm development, we are focusing on the greenhouse. This is our target. This is our target. We need to convert our partner farmers to become an agripreneurs. We are supporting 38 partner farmers in Benguet, Ilocos, Zambales. So what I'm trying to say here is that here's our help need. We need inclusivity. We cannot do this alone. We need your support. If you know someone who eats every day, baka they want to use our mobile app and buy directly from our partner farmers. Baka you can also recommend us to institutional buyers, and maybe we can collaborate, because helping local farmers is not just an activity of one, but we need everyone to support the farmers. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Eloisa. Very, very interesting and powerful presentation. Lalo na yung video, napakaganda. Before we move on, I need to ask you two things. Yung app that was made by Filipinos, right? Gawa yan ng Pinoy, right?
Yes, we correct. Gawa yan ng team namin.
Oh, wonderful. And then second, before we move on to the next speaker, how do you download the Session app, the Session Groceries app? Saan siya
Punta lang sila sa Android and iOS. I-download lang nila Session Groceries.
Okay, perfect. So okay, we have that there, no? So galing, I picked up a few things also from from your presentation. Isa yung binanggit mo about the value, yung value added products, diba? Kasi kadalasan yung iba na itatapon lang, right? So imbis na itapon, you process it and then get more value, no, from the product. Right?
That's correct, Miss Sui. Kasi ano din yan nagiging part din siya ng tinataasan ng farmer yung price niya kasi ang dami niyang tinatapon. So ngayon nagiging value added na. Oo, at least wala nang food wastage.
Correct. So they get more income pa from that otherwise itinatapon na pagkain, right?
Correct. Yan nga kami din excited kasi at least ngayon nako-convert na nila. Tapos may pag-asa kami na ma-export yung product kasi maayos yung product na ginagawa nila.
Correct. And then of course, natitest pa siya ng tama. Very, very well done. In fact, only a week ago, yung Bloomberg nag-release ng article sinabi doon that it's possible daw that the food waste is that they used to estimate parang a few billion tons is actually twice as much than they before estimated. So ang galing that something is being done to address food waste on that part. So well done. Thank you very much. Very, very enlightening, very inspiring presentation, Eloisa. So as we move on to the next speaker, I'd like to set the tone for the next topic. Let us watch this video on how social media platforms play a vital role in improving awareness and education for environmental sustainability. So let's look at this video.
Ang gusto ko po kasi makita ng susunod na mga henerasyon na magandang Boracay. Panawagan ko po na dapat yung mga turista din po na pupunta dito sa Boracay is responsibilidad din po nila na huwag magkaroon ng disiplina. Pinost ko po yun para ikalat sa buong mundo na ang likas na yaman ay hindi sinisira o sinasayang. Nakaka-bad trip po, tapos nakaka-isip na ayun, hindi po ma-upload yung mga like activities po namin dahil sa load po.
Iba't ibang telecoms network. May kanya-kanya silang proyekto dito ngayon sa Boracay as part of rehabilitation to improve their technology, mag-upgrade ng technology para mas maganda ang internet connection natin. Other than new normal, malaki ang papel talaga ng internet connection, no, para i-promote ang environmental awareness. Lahat naman gumagamit na ngayon ng internet, di ba? Kaya kami halimbawa sa DNR, we have several social media platforms para i-promote ang environmental awareness. Importante talaga ang internet connection if we want to promote awareness and sustain tourism here in Boracay.
Pag video call na po kami sa kung sino po yung gusto mag-volunteer na para sa clean up drive, wala na pong problema ngayon yung mga pag-upload at videos. Gamit po ng internet at social media, kaya po pong magsimula ng pagbabago.
And now for our next speaker, let us welcome Dr. Georgine Primavera. Dr. Georgine Primavera is a widely cited Filipina marine scientist. She completed her BS Zoology and PhD in Marine Science from the University of the Philippines, Diliman, and her MA in Zoology from Indiana University. She has authored around 130 scientific papers, reviews, manuals, books, and other publications. Dr. Primavera was elected to the Swedish Royal Academy on Agriculture and Forestry, Royal Belgian Academy for Overseas Sciences, and other honor societies. She was also named as Emerita Scientist of the Aquaculture Department of the Southeast Asian Fisheries Development Center, one of the 30 Time Magazine Heroes of the Environment, and one of the 50 DOST Men and Women of Science in 2008. She was honored as a University of the Philippines Distinguished Alumni Awardee in Environmental Conservation and Sustainable Development in 2008, and inducted into the National Academy of Science and Technology in 2015. We are proud to introduce to you Globe's partner for its mangrove conservation program, Dr. Georgine Primavera, the Chief Scientific Advisor of the Zoological Society of London, to give us a deep dive into various case studies on reforestation in the Philippines. So let's welcome Dr. Primavera. Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Good afternoon to everybody.
Hello, doctor.
Am I clear? Is it
Yes,
okay?
we hear you very well. Thank you very much.
Okay,
And
thank
good
you.
afternoon to
So, thank you to Globe for the invitation to share. Medyo I have to use recycled materials. And then Rofil told me may mga mayors. So ayun, yun ang hook ko, no? Yung mga mayors. So the first slides will show my credentials, the mayors that I've known over decades from Aklan. Yung video kanina was in Aklan, Siargao, and Iloilo, a mayor and the governor. More mayors in Iloilo, 2 mayors in fact, no? Ganun katagal ako nag-environmental work Inahui, the Iloilo governor, and 2 mayors of Iloilo City. First, I will talk about case studies of 4 mayors and 4 environmental projects. The first in Aklan, here, and this is Mayor then Congressman Alan Kimpo, the late Alan Kimpo. And this is the Bacau Eco Park, a 100-hectare mangrove area rehabilitated under his terms. And here we see the timeline, 89 onwards. It was just mud flats and how it became mangroves. Political will, and of course, many other factors. But yung political will, importante yon. So from 89, you have all the funding and the people's organization, some research, which we will see in a while. Here, British collaborators. He was a mud crab project, some fishers, and an award from FAO in 2003. This is a young Alan, and me also. My hair was still short and black. Now it's long because of the lock-in, and it's white because of age. But a few years later, we would go to the field together, to mangroves together. I read that Mayor Gomez is in the audience, and maybe this will be interesting to him because in his part of the woods, maraming mangroves dun, no? And this was in 2005 when I brought a group of teachers to visit his mangrove eco park. And I asked him a question, Alan, in your long political career, what would be the highlight or highlights, no? And he took just a very quick moment to think. Ito yung sagot niya. Sabi niya, Georgine, itong mangrove eco park, ito lang. Not the infrastructure, not the concrete, not the kung ano-ano pa dyan, but it was nature, what he was able to do. This was 2005. Yun ang sagot niya sa teachers. And in 11 years, this was 2016, when I last visited him, he had cancer. He passed away. So, but his legacy is there, no? Yung mangrove na yun. So the second case study is another mangrove, this time in southern Panay, in Iloilo, Readiness. And this is the mayor responsible, the late Adolf Haen. By the way, the 2 mayors have things in common. First, they have passed away now. And second, they turned out to be my fraternity brothers in Diliman, although not the same batches. And this is the Eco Park. When it started in 2009, it was an abandoned pond. And under the term of Adolf, Mayor Adolf, it was reverted back into mangroves and it became an eco park. The labor was provided, free labor, no, in planting the mangroves by students, high school, college, civil society, ang dami-daming mga sectors, free labor. But that was how inspiring he was to turn this abandoned pond like this in only 3 years. Full canopy planting by volunteer labor, no, of all segments of society. So maybe I did not need to ask him, but I guess he would have given the same answer as Alan, na ito yung highlight sa life niya, political life. So that he was so excited about the mangroves that in 2014, actually this 2014, they inaugurated the Eco Park here. This is a 200-meter green belt to protect the coastal community. By the way, this green belt is mandated by law, but actually it's more in the breach rather than in the compliance. Pero nandyan yan sa mga laws natin, no? Someone mentioned 20 typhoons a year. Talagang 20 typhoons, and we need these green belts. And that was in 2014. And earlier this year, this Nipahat na, kasi this was purely LGU funding. Hindi ito naghingi outside, no? Just from the municipality. In less than, in mga six years, meron ng concrete structure to replace the nipa hut. And this is his son. No, not son, his grandson actually, Mayor Haen. And we know, political families, dynasties, but in this case, to me, parang very sustainable kasi the environmental bias and awareness is there. It's now 15 hectares. This is the architects made a design on how to develop it. Kasi right now, may isang footwalk lang and not too much because they're waiting for funding. This was the only thing that they built. So, okay naman, except in their design, facing the sea, there was, I don't know, maybe 2-meter high structure, but this is facing the open sea with an amphitheater. And you have 20 typhoons. Anong mangyayari kay St. Vincent? So we have an audience next week with the LGU to look at the science of this. Okay, if we can somehow compromise religion and science, pwede, but the science has to be there. These were students who helped to plant the mangroves. So this is socio-political networking, academe and local governments and NGOs. And I'd like to highlight na mas nag-term limit si Mayor Haen. So there was a new mayor, Mayor Rojas. The support to the mangrove eco park did not change. It was there, so it was really very nice from the municipal point of view. So this is now this is now replaced with the new structure. But before the pandemic, we had trainees going there, and we have more than 100 agencies and groups that have planted here, that have supported this eco park. So the ownership is not just LGU, but it's all the people that have planted there, that have been there. So it's a very sustainable project. Yung dissemination, seminars lang and those who visit. So the next batch of mayors, iba na yung tools nila, being more millennials. But let me insert muna the problems of the environment, floods, landslides, and more landslides. So solution is restoration or reforestation through the National Greening Program. But time and again, ito yung evaluation problema, did not deliver the goods. Reasons being no mapping, no monitoring, and here, pwede sana yung digital technology could have helped a lot here. And more, this was the privileged speech of a senator. But anyway, just one reason bakit nag-fail yun. This is the watershed of Iloilo City. Reforested 7,000 hectares, but why did the floods come to Iloilo for the first time with Typhoon Frank in 2008, despite the replanting of mainly mahogany? And the reason is mali ang species. Mahogany is an exotic species, toxic substances that kill the microorganisms, so there is no organic matter, so hindi na-absorb yung water. The water, it's like concrete. The water goes down the watershed straight to Iloilo City. So, ito yung problema because the government still sticks to the exotic acacia, gemelina, and swietenia, whereas the science tells us that we should use native species for reforestation. For bare areas, we should use pioneers, and for enrichment of degraded areas, we can use these species. So here I introduce the concept of beach forest species kasi dito yung maraming pioneer species for bare sites. And the two mayors that I will introduce later, these are the species they are looking at. They are good pioneering species because they can stand the hot sun, by the beach. They are not mangroves. Ang mangroves between the high tide and low tide dito, but the beach species are above the high tide. May hot sun, strong waves, not enough nutrients. So they are really pioneering species, low fresh water. And in 2008, when I retired, I purchased a 3-hectare area, old farm which had a hard pan. Yung mga agriculturists, and from constant plowing, tumigas yung soil. So it's a pan. When it rains like now, it's a pan of water. The plants will get flooded. And if it's a dry season, walang water. But despite that, 2016 to 2018, over 10 years, ito yung trees that I've planted in the hard pan. All native tree species, about 80 of them. And when I look at the kinds of species, yung beech forest, yung sabi kong pioneers, almost 90% survived through the 2 El Niños. And yung non-beech forest species, not even 20% survived. So this is technology for what to use. And this is one native species. I have all these pictures from my nursery to the grow out. This is akling parang, the seeds that were produced by the mother trees. And we exchange seeds. So we have native tree groups. Now I introduce social media because this is where we are very, very active. The native tree groups are, without social media, we don't have the platform. And of course, social media means connectivity. But if you exchange seeds within the island, madali lang, like in Panay, you can exchange personally. But if you cross islands, we are an archipelago of 7,000 islands. You need something else. So, for example, this is bani or baluk-baluk. This is one of the champion reforestation species kasi in 3 years, nanganganak na siya. It can produce a F1 generation, the opposite of family planning. We don't want quick reproduction for humans, but for our trees, we want them to reproduce as fast as they can. So eto na, in 2020, yung seedlings are like this. And these are the seeds that I have been sharing. For me, I only have a few trees kasi diversity ang ano ko, no? And when I send seeds for free, they just pay for the courier. Then all I ask from them is to send back the baby pictures. So these are from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, yung nag-germinate ng native species, no? Different people. But also, on social media, there's a part there where by the kilos. Kung by the kilos, then that's for sale. But these are native trees, no? This is how we're going to reforest. What? We have 30 million hectares and 20 million, 25 million of forests are gone. We need to reforest, what? More than 20 million. This is how we're going to reforest them, with native trees, not with exotics. Social media has also been useful, no? Itong tuog, but I will not go into that because in the meantime, it has been saved, the tuog tree of Agusan Sur, my home province. But many native, 1 dozen native tree groups are really thriving on social media. Yan sila actually, no, they look at their social media page maybe 1 dozen times a day. But it's all plants, it's all native trees. And I think it's the native trees that really give social media a good press. Kasi alam naman natin, bad press yung ano, no? Yung F, dash, ending in K. But with this, who can quarrel with the environment? So we go now to the last 2 LGUs. Isabela wants to plant 1 million trees and Cagayan 200 million trees. So we must plant native trees. These are species, but I don't want to bother you with that. But we have the information now and we can share it. So the third local LGU, and then the fourth will be the last, is in Davao. This is an NGO, the Nabunturan Native Tree Enthusiasts. They give lectures to youth groups, okay, before planting, and CSOs. Also military. They plant in all vacant spaces, including cemeteries. The cemetery ito, no? And the nice thing is that they have hooked up with the local government, because actually the head of the native tree group is a councilor, is a municipal councilor. So that is very good when you have the NGO overlapping with the government. Kasi unified, no? Unified ang objective. So this is the councilor of Nabunturan and the governor of Davao de Oro. So may MOA between the NGO, a commercial company, and the Penro. Okay, so that's really very nice coordination. And this is NNTE, their logo, one of their areas here. And they have also been featured in media. And the latest that I saw on social media, I might as well say Facebook, kasi yun lang naman, is that these seedlings from their nursery will go to different municipalities in Davao de Oro, because the governor now has adopted a program to have eco parks of native trees in each municipality of Davao de Oro. So how nice, no? This NGO will donate the native tree seedlings to, so this will soon be full of native trees. And the last, the best for the last, this is Mayor Tin Antonio of Alcala, Cagayan. Her SOMA earlier this year, she mentioned a 100-year flood, and this was the flood in one of the barangays, and images of forced evacuation. So with that, even before the flood, already they said, let's build a green wall of Alcala. And one of their plantings here, I think there's a number, it's Putat, Baringtonia racemosa, they planted 200, something like that. But look, it is science-based because they planted in the barangay that had the worst floods, Bangkirohan or something like that. And Putat is, it can withstand waterlogging. So technology, even planting, must still be science-based, non-science driven. And that is the beauty of this mayor, because she listens to the scientists. Then in February this year, walking with along the beach, she saw this very beautiful tree, and she asked us, scientists and native tree enthusiasts, and of course it was Catoxylum formosum or Salingogon. It's found all over and it has very pretty blossoms, but it's called Uringon because most of the locals cut it down, despite the beautiful flowers, because this happens only once a year and only for 2 weeks. So most locals don't see the beauty and they see only uling. So it's uringon, no, for fuel. So now there's a campaign in all the native tree groups to propagate this. And in fact, Mayor Tin saw this in February, but by July, they had planted almost 800 seedlings of that beautiful tree. I said, saan nila nakuha? I don't think they can produce seedlings, 800 seedlings that quick in half a year. Yun pala, they procured it from Davao, from Nabunturan. So that Nabunturan nursery is really producing not only hundreds, but thousands of native trees. No? So yun, those of you might be interested, mga local mayors there. And then, December of last year, they planted almost 4,000 seedlings in water impoundments. So iba-iba, no, ang objective for planting. Here, you will see, this is on a slope. Nandun yung rice fields. It's a slope. It's a slope. So again, you have to be science-based. And look, naka-raincoat sila. So this is rain or shine. No? This is not just photo ops. You have a date to plant, then you plant, rain or shine. In fact, rainy season is the best time to plant. Going back to that Salingogon, that beautiful tree, we have so many native trees that are beautiful, that have beautiful flowers. You want yellow, may yellow, pink, red, we can give you. And here are all the species, all the flowers of the native trees. And this is available if anybody is interested. And on social media, ang daming posters, native trees as windbreakers, native trees for parking areas, for urban areas, for all kinds of coastal protection, something like that. So this is the last slide, because maybe I'm overshooting my time. This is now the latest project. Look, wow, this is a nursery of a municipality with a mist system. Nako, yung nakakaya, yung nursery ko, I have a front yard nursery. It's really nothing compared to this, but you can see that this is serious business, no? And LGUs have so many resources, and I can see that, Mayor Antonio really puts it to good use with a mist system. And here, this is one of their barangays. this was last year pa, rechanneling of this river kasi this barangay would fall with heavy rains, no, and the river would fall. So she consulted Dr. Siringan, my good friend of UP Marine Science Institute. What can we do? So this is again science-based, hindi sila pataka lang, by themselves. So this is what the scientists recommended. You rechannel the river, so the water goes this way, and this municipality will not fall into the water, will be safe. So this is now the start of the channeling. So I'm sorry I don't have a title slide, I don't have a thank you slide because, as I said, but I hope you got most of it. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Georgine, for sharing with us. I think the greenest, literally and figuratively, set of presentations we've ever seen. Very impressive work on how science is really put to use now in helping solve these issues that we have in and around the country. We'd like to move on now to our next speaker, our final speaker. This is we have Vince Tempunko. So Vince leads the national acquisition and management of site properties and right-of-way for Globe's network facilities. He develops strategic partnerships with key stakeholders, including government units, and finds innovative and non-traditional ways of overcoming challenges in the site acquisition process. To speak about how providing better and faster connectivity can improve the lives of Filipinos, especially during this period of rapid digital transition, let us welcome the Vice President for Site Acquisition and Management of Globe Telecom, Vince Tempunko. Hello, Vince.
Hello. Thank you for having me today and for the introduction, Bill and Sui. Professor Dindo Manhit, Mayor Jopet Inton, Ms. Eloisa Ramaraog Diga, Dr. Georgine Primavera. Thank you for your very insightful and inspiring presentations. To our distinguished mayors and guests and everyone who has joined us today, good afternoon. As we heard from my co-panelists today, tech and digital solutions will enable a better life for Filipinos. At Globe, we continue to gear up for a sustainable digital future using our robust and pervasive network to carry on technological advancements that could help address everyday problems that people are facing. Today, we will be sharing the efforts Globe is undertaking to fulfill its digitalization objective. In all our talks, some of you may notice a reiteration of our vision of a Philippines where family dreams come true, businesses flourish, and the nation is admired. And also our mission to create wonderful experiences for people to have choices, overcome challenges, and discover new ways to enjoy life. And of course, our purpose of treating people right and creating a globe of good. It is in our vision, mission, and purpose that all our efforts are anchored on. This allows us to continue creating wonderful. At the center of wonderful is a superior network experience and customer centricity. Fueling our vision and the One Globe ecosystem are a robust 4G LTE and 5G network supporting a growing customer base of 84 million Filipinos. And as of the first quarter of 2021, data traffic of 836 petabytes. On top of this, we have provided a seamless ecosystem of customer-centric solutions that enrich the lives of customers even beyond telco by democratizing financial services, primary healthcare, and e-commerce. While we deliver these, we also commit to a sustainable future. We believe that given the limitations and challenges our country is facing today, digital is truly the answer to many of our problems. The investments poured in and accelerated network builds are now paying off. For this year alone, Globe is investing around 70 billion pesos, which is 40% of its revenues. And this 40% is one of the highest, if not the highest globally. And in 2021, this year, Globe is also targeting to build 2,000 new sites to increase the capacity and expand our network even further. With all these, the average download speeds in the country have more than doubled in less than a year. Despite the geographical, topographical, and at times regulatory challenges with the fiber rollout, the Philippines has improved by 18 spots in the global rankings. Filipinos now enjoy an average download speed of 66.55 Mbps versus last year's 25.34 Mbps. And just like fiber, mobile download speeds have doubled to 32.84 Mbps and have also improved 9 spots in the global ranking. These were achieved despite all the challenges that came with the pandemic. With the competition in the market and the scale that we've achieved, Filipinos enjoy the lowest internet pricing in our region and one of the lowest in the world at 9 pesos per gigabyte. Even during this pandemic, we strive to provide new promos and services so more Filipinos can stay connected, especially with unconventional work and school setups. On the 5G front, the Philippines was recognized by OpenSignal as a country with the biggest improvement in 5G internet speeds. We experienced a 10.4 times improvement in download speeds at 141.7 Mbps. The Philippines is also recognized as one of the top Asia-Pacific countries as far as 5G internet experience. To date, Globe has 700,000 subscribers on the 5G network, and we see this number continue to increase. Globe now has 5G outdoor coverage in at least 88% of the National Capital Region. It is also accessible in Cebu, Boracay, Bacolod, Iloilo, Davao, Cagayan de Oro, and General Santos. Globe's unabated efforts to improve the country's state of connectivity have led to being recognized by Ookla as the most consistent network, mobile network, that is, for 2 consecutive quarters in 2021, with a consistency score of 70.43 in the first quarter and an improved 75.98 in the second quarter. Globe has also topped the Netflix ISP Speed Index with a score of 3.2 Mbps, not very far from the US score of 3.4 Mbps. Maintaining consistency of service is a true benchmark of our ability to deliver better network experiences to millions of Filipinos. As we build more infrastructure, we expect mobile internet experience to improve and bring us closer to a first world network. Despite the pandemic, Globe continues to invest in its network and expand nationwide. Given the substantial capex that has been poured in and is also being poured in as we speak, we have been able to build and upgrade more towers and lay down more fiber. To date, we have 11,054 physical cell towers, 10,021 sites upgraded to 4G LTE, providing fast internet connectivity to over 90% of the population. And we now have 1,656 5G locations. And from Jan to May alone, Globe has been able to lay almost 530,000 fiber lines, more than 50% of its 21 target of 1 million lines. And with the support of ARTA, the DICT, and DILG, and also the passing of the Bayanihan Tulo, we secured 1,451 permits in the first 6 months of the year. And we continue to encourage the LGUs to support the Bayanihan Tulo so that we can hasten the upgrade of our network and internet experience in your areas. With a more superior mobile experience, 4G LTE is a standard of connectivity in the country. Globe has emerged on a massive network upgrade to provide the latest 4G LTE technology nationwide. And one sure way to experience good connectivity is to change to a 4G LTE or 5G SIM and device or install fiber for home connectivity. With this, we encourage subscribers who are still using 3G SIM cards to change to the latest 5G-ready 4G LTE eSIMs to take full advantage of our improved services. Customers are assured that their mobile numbers are retained when they switch to the new mobile data standard. And if quarantine protocols in their respective areas allow, customers can go to the nearest Globe store to change their SIM cards for free. So if you are still on a 3G device and SIM, go get your 4G or 5G enabled phone or device and SIM so that you can enjoy first world connectivity. At home, the internet has become indispensable to us. It is our lifeline, especially during this unusual time. In this pandemic, we've seen the market shift to fiber as people needed better connectivity to support whatever they had to do at home, work, learn, and even entertainment. Globe has ongoing efforts to upgrade our customers from wireless and copper to fiber, so that our subscribers can enjoy more stable and faster connectivity at home. Beyond meeting internet connectivity standards, customer experience expectations has also increased. Globe at Home has increased its technician support teams by 80% versus last year just to meet customer expectations for installation, repair, upgrade, or migration service needs. The self-service Globe at Home app has also been reinforced to give customers a hassle-free digital channel where they can easily pay, upgrade, and request for assistance. Globe at Home plans also go beyond connectivity. We have also emphasized the importance of health and safety, which is why Globe at Home plans now come with practical add-ons such as G-Insure with COVID and dengue coverage, and as well as free subscription to the top telehealth service, Consulta MD. With a robust and expansive network, we are gearing up for a tomorrow by enabling digital solutions that will improve the lives of Filipinos. GCash, for one, is now the country's top mobile wallet with over 40 million registered users and over 1.9 million merchants and social sellers. GCash is also able to service the unbanked and extend this inclusion to other parts of the country. This pandemic has seen the accelerated adoption of mobile money, given that it is safer and more convenient than transacting in cash. Since then, GCash has expanded from just being a transactional app to a lifestyle app with an e-commerce platform like GLife, savings feature with GSave, investments via GInvest, and even a chance to contribute to the environment through GForest. On the other hand, Consulta MD has also gained more significance as people now see the value and convenience of accessing doctors without risking going to hospitals for primary consultations. At only 60 pesos per month, we have democratized access to healthcare and have contributed to addressing the scarcity of doctors in clinics in many parts of the country. Investing in solutions is another significant aspect that Globe is focusing on through its corporate venture builder, 917 Ventures, which, by the way, is the largest corporate venture builder in the country today. This allows Globe to maximize our assets to ideate, launch, and accelerate digital business ideas. Imagine the tech we can develop and incubate for the near future. Kickstart is the Philippines' most active venture capital firm. Backed by Globe and the Ayala ecosystem, Kickstart continues to invest in the future of data, logistics, and media for national development. Globe is working closely with the Ayala Group in integrating sustainability practices into the group's operations and programs. Our objective is to be a very socially and sustainably responsible company, because that way we ensure that this country and the world sustains itself throughout as we progress. We are committed to upholding the United Nations Global Compact principles and contribute to the 10 UN Sustainable Development Goals, among which is UN SDG number 9, that highlights the roles of infrastructure and innovation as crucial drivers of economic growth and development. Technology is constantly changing and ever evolving around the world. New needs that are massively independent on ICT to thrive in the new normal have emerged. Like what we heard from our previous speakers, technology plays an integral role for initiatives to come to life. The effects of this pandemic, particularly in the advancement of digital adoption, will definitely stay and affect the way we work, we study, and promote awareness campaigns. Assessing our readiness as a country is vital in identifying gaps in order to move forward. Armed with our infrastructure investments in robust and expansive network, Globe is poised to better serve our customers and uplift their quality of life with impactful innovations. Thank you, and good afternoon again to everyone.
Thank you, Vince. Really very interesting points you mentioned on how the internet speed has doubled in less than a year, and that
Yes.
With 5G it goes up to 10.4 times the improvement in speed versus 4G. So that's something that we can really look forward to, especially as you mentioned, like in the case of GCash, 40 million people, 1.9 million merchants. It's so much is passing through. No? the digital infrastructure. So it's really something, we need to build all of that to make everything happen. We're gonna kick off our Q&A session. I have a question also it goes for everyone. Ang sabi niya is, good day. I'd like to ask, are we really ready for the transformation of a digital economy? Is the transformation of the digital economy too fast? Is it happening too fast? Maybe we can address that to Professor Dindo. Anong masasabi niyo doon, sir?
On that question, is it too fast? It's happening. It's happening maybe in different levels of shift, as we see. Maybe urban areas are driving it. Maybe the so-called that's why I use the term more productive or highly skilled workers that tend to be more flexible in these shifts. But it's the direction that not only the country but the whole world. I've always believed that the Filipinos have become global. The nature of overseas Filipino workers, migrancy around the world. So this is a reality of a new life. So the question that I fear most is, what about those that will be left behind? That's why I've always said that we need to accept this reality. It's the direction, but we should not forget the possibility, because there is the possibility always of a digital divide, and also those that will not be able to keep up to it. But it's there, and we just need to adjust and accept it, embrace it. And that's why I said government cannot do it alone. It takes the whole of society to deal with it, to work with it, to make it really the direction of our country. This digitally ready society and digitally ready people.
Correct. Otherwise, may iwan, right?
Yes.
Some move faster than the rest are left behind. Okay.
And may iwan sila economically also. That's the sad part.
Another question that's related, it says, how can the government incentivize the private sector in order to help out in aiding and building for a digitally competitive system so that we can be globally competitive? Vince, baka you have some experience on that, no? How is private sector working with government to make this transformation happen?
Okay. Just like with what we've been doing the past few years, we've been engaging the ICT, the ILG, ARTA. And as you can see, through our efforts, the regulatory condition has improved. Thus, we are able to now get more permits and able to build sites. So, and as a testament to that, you'll see that within a year's time or less than a year's time of the passing of the Bayanihan Law, our internet speeds have more than doubled. So that's a good example of how we've been working with how the government and the private sector can work together to improve our digital to hasten our digital transformation.
Thank you for that. One question. This I address this to Mayor Jopet. No, this is related to education. Maybe you have the experience or expertise on this. Ang tanong is, how can one invest in education more within the purview of online classes where students can gain access to legitimate softwares such as MS Office, Turnitin, and the like? How can we lessen the divide of those senior high school students, of those that have access to efficient internet connections and those that do not have?
Well, Sui, I think the national government, especially the Department of Education, should spearhead a technical working group on how we can address this issue together with the private sector, because the private sector is also very important. With that, we can move forward. We should start now.
Thank you, Mayor. I see Professor Dindo nodding his head on what you mentioned. Maybe you'd like to add to that, Prof. Dindo.
Yes, it's very important that to realize that a strong educational sector at the local level actually contributes to the growth of our private sector. They are either your consumers in the future or your workers, employees in the future. So everybody is a stakeholder in education. That's why when, as I've said, I was with government 2 decades back. And that was why my vision then, the idea that it cannot be government alone. And because the product, the output or the outcome of education becomes the future of the nation itself. And now, as we shift to digitally driven type of workers, as I've said earlier, knowledge-based workers. That's where we realize that we need to put more in education.
That's right.
And both private and public can play a role. And also the private sector, I've seen a lot of partnership through the years from the private sector. It's just that we need that. What's the role of a local government union, for example? What's the role of a national government that can really break either the bureaucratic obstacles or the regulatory obstacles for the private sector to invest more, not only in education but in digital technology. When you speak of like a government project, like a free Wi-Fi project, that sad to say has not moved these past few years. That takes a private sector to make that last mile towards that Wi-Fi places, public places, as they called it in the past few years, in the different general appropriations act. It's not really government that will construct that. It's a private sector that they will contract it out. So it's really creating that system that works together is what we need towards a certain direction to improve the digital readiness of Philippine society.
Thank you there for that, Professor Dindo. I have a question here from Tom Perez and I address this to Eloisa. Ang sabi ni Tom, considering the interplay of market forces in defining economic directions, don't we need to have AI capabilities, no? Some data analytics to establish the market predictive modeling order of social enterprise or agri-crops to position the production strategies accordingly. So, pwede ba mag-apply pa kaya ng artificial intelligence, data analytics para matulungan pa yung agri-products to market, farm to market?
I think naman kailangan pa talaga ng innovation sa mga ganyan. Kailangan pa ng mga farmers din, ng mga, kunyari AI. Hindi siya nag-e-end kasi sa technology naman, hindi lang siya mag-e-end basta dun sa nagawa lang yung app. Kailangan meron talagang mga enhancement. Hindi lang siya titigil dun sa isa. Yes, kailangan talaga siya.
And I see that you must have been building this app, no? Nagsimula sa ordering process perhaps. Now it's even you go into the branding and even the academy side. All of that is done locally, no? By local partners?
Lahat yun, collaboration yun with the farmers, kung ano yung kailangan nila, tapos ginagawa na lang ng team namin dun sa mga kailangan. Tapos may mga nakiki-collaborate sa amin. So for example, si Lasal, nakakita din niya na may need pala yung team na to para dun sa food processing. So madami pang pwedeng i-explore lalo sa agriculture. Dami pa nating pwedeng gawin.
I think it's Mayor Bernard D on the line. Hi Mayor, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you again.
To see you guys.
Hi, Mayor. Good afternoon.
Hi, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon, Vince. And Kuya Dindo, nice presentation.
Good afternoon, Bernard.
I understand you also use a bit of tech, no, in terms of yung inyong agriculture sector in Isabela. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have some, but not as advanced yet as what was presented earlier. But yeah, it's along the lines. And basically, I pretty much learned a lot in this session. Our farmers would definitely also, it will have a great impact with our farmers.
Thank you for being one of our regulars sa ating webinar series. And also a former speaker as well. There are no more questions, in fact, from our mayors in attendance and the other people in the audience. I'd like to ask Bill to give us our closing remarks.
Thank you, Sui, and thank you to the mayors. I also see Mayor Nico Yulo here from Bago. Mayor Nico, good afternoon. Thank you, Sui, for moderating today. And well, on behalf of Livable Cities Challenge, I'd like to thank all our speakers. Dindo Manhit, Mayor Jopet, Eloisa, Dr. Georgine, and Vince. For sharing your insights and experiences with technology and development. Like Mayor Bernard, I learned a lot today on how technology can affect, from a very small and micro scale operation to much larger, bigger areas. From Dindo, I think he's correct. The trends are all up. Everyone's moving in the direction of more technology usage. So we should try to accelerate that change and take advantage, actually, of that change. And and use it to leapfrog, not for technology purposes only, but for in other sectors. No? And from Mayor Jopet, what I liked is the mayor used a sort of a very multidisciplinary, multi-technology approach to education, everything from radio to tablets to TV screens. So he used whatever was available, and the best part about it is that he moves ahead without having to wait for so many things to fall into place, because it does take a little time for national government to roll out large scale programs. Uh, from Eloisa, I love the story of Session, because it's not just selling vegetables, but actually transforming farmers' lives and turning them into agri entrepreneurs. So I would really urge people to support Session Groceries. Download the app. It's on Apple and Android. It is a locally built app. I've got it downloaded on my phone, and I look forward to using it and ordering products from the over 30 farmers that they have. And then from Dr. Georgine, thank you for the explanation on the use of native trees, and the fact that we can get all this information on social media. I had no idea, and so now I think this great idea to have this seed exchange uh, among native tree growers, and to kind of propagate not only trees but propagate the idea across across the country. And then Vince, thanks for bringing us up to date on the technology and the value of trying to moving from 3G to 4G to 5G ready, because I think that's the direction we all need to head into. And it's a technology that will enable us to do all people to do all these great things across different sectors. So thank you to all the speakers for that. Finally, I'd like to thank our partners, the League of Cities of the Philippines and Globe Telecom, for helping us put together the Livable Cities series. As I said, this is our 15th in the last 2 years. And we try to really widen the topics and listen to as many topics as we can to try to be able to create better, sustainable, more competitive, livable cities. For more updates, you can always go to our social media and keep track of us there on Facebook and Twitter. All our presentations will be will be posted to our website. Thank you very much for joining us today. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.